The twin suns of ardent prime glinted off the smooth metallic domes of the human colony. The city was alive with motion. Hovercraft glided silently through the airways, and children laughed as they ran along the terraces. Yet beneath the calm surface, a quiet tension rippled through the colony's central hub. The messengers were returning. These were no ordinary travelers. They had been chosen by the Council, an interstellar assembly of species, to carry a delicate message to a mysterious alien faction whose intentions were unknown. For months the humans had waited, their every thought shadowed by worry. Now the communication beams flared on the colony's observation screens, and the arrival pods pierced the atmosphere like falling stars. At the landing bay, officials and citizens gathered, eyes wide. The messengers' pods hissed open one by one, releasing humans in sleek suits marked with the insignia of the Council. Relief surged through the crowd. Families ran forward, ready to embrace their loved ones. The Council's representative, a tall woman with silver hair named Ayla Corvin, stepped forward. Her hands raised in cautious welcome, but something was wrong. The first messenger to step out was Jaron Tovik, a seasoned diplomat and the leader of the mission. His eyes, usually warm and expressive, were empty. His smile, when it appeared, was stiff, mechanical. He nodded politely to Ayla, but the gesture was off, too precise, almost rehearsed. A whisper ran through the crowd. "Is it just me, or he doesn't look the same?" A young technician murmured. Ayla's brow furrowed. She approached him slowly. "Jaron," she said softly, "how was the journey? What did you find?" He turned to her with perfect posture. The mission was completed. All objectives met, he said. His voice lacked the familiar cadence she remembered. It was flat, controlled. Jaron's second-in-command, Sila Ven, stepped down from her pod next. She too moved with unnatural precision. Her eyes scanned the crowd in a way that seemed more like observation than recognition. Families approached her, calling her name, but she merely nodded, her lips curving into an imitation of a smile. The crowd murmured in confusion. No one wanted to believe it, but the signs were impossible to ignore. These humans were back, but they were not quite themselves. The Council quickly called an emergency session in the observation hall. Security protocols were immediately activated, and the returned messengers were escorted inside. The hall was a circular chamber, walls lined with shimmering panels showing distant star systems. Ayla took her place at the head of the room, her voice steady but laced with tension. "Report," she demanded. Jaron and Sila stood side by side. "Mission objectives accomplished," Jaron repeated. "All messages delivered. No deviations." Ayla's eyes narrowed. "And the people we sent with you? The research teams? Your own crew?" Jaron's head tilted slightly, a subtle misalignment in his posture. "Crew accounted for. No casualties." Ayla felt a chill run down her spine. Something about the way he said it. It was correct, precise, but it lacked the truth she had always trusted in her friends. Dr. Alara Voss, the lead scientist, stepped forward. She had spent months preparing for potential risks of interstellar travel. Her eyes scanned the returning messengers, noting minute irregularities in their physiology. "I'm detecting unusual neural activity," she announced. "Their brain scans show patterns inconsistent with baseline human readings. Something is different. Something. Alien." The words sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. "What do you mean, alien?" asked a council member, his voice tight. Alara shook her head. "I can't explain it fully yet. It's subtle, there's no physical harm, but their neural patterns suggest they've been influenced. Controlled, maybe. They mimic human behavior perfectly, but I don't see the neural signatures that indicate memory and personal experience." Ayla clenched her fists. "You're saying they're not themselves?" "Exactly," Alara replied. "They are humans in form, but not in mind. Some external factor seems to have overwritten parts of their identity." Silence fell across the hall. A murmur rose from the observers, scientists, diplomats, and security officers alike. The implications were terrifying. Jaron, standing perfectly still, finally spoke. "We were welcomed by them. They were generous, and our communications were understood." His words were calm, eerily so. There was no hesitation, no emotion. "Everything is normal." Ayla stared at him, feeling a growing unease. "You do realize that's impossible? Your tone, your expression, they are not your own. Something happened out there. Jaren blinked slowly, unnaturally, as if processing a new command. Nothing unusual occurred. We followed orders. Mission complete. Sela stepped forward, her movements deliberate and symmetrical. All was accomplished efficiently. Our memories align with Council protocols. Ayla turned to Alara. Can we communicate with them further? Ask questions that might reveal the truth? Alara shook her head. Their neural readings suggest that traditional questioning will yield only what they have been made to say. But there are small inconsistencies, micro-expressions, gestures, choices. Humans have subtle unpredictability. If we observe closely, we may find a way to reach them. Ayla took a deep breath. We must, for their sake and ours. If the mission changed them, we need to know why, and if it's reversible. Outside the hall, the citizens of Ardent Prime began to gather, their curiosity piqued by the unusual behavior of the returning messengers. Whispers ran through the crowd. Could humans truly be replaced? Could anyone survive such an encounter unscathed? The council decreed a period of observation. Security protocols were strengthened, ensuring that the messengers could not leave without authorization. Alara and her team began a series of tests, controlled conversations, behavioral puzzles, and neural scans. They recorded every detail, every gesture, every blink. It was during one of these observation sessions that Alara noticed the first clue. Sela was asked to describe a memory from her childhood. She hesitated just a fraction of a second and then recited a memory, but it was off. The details were slightly wrong, like a story someone had heard secondhand. Her tone was flat, almost rehearsed. Alara leaned closer. Did you experience that? She asked softly. Sila's eyes, unblinking, met hers. Yes, she said. But there was no conviction, no emotion. Alara exchanged a glance with Ayla. The evidence was mounting. The aliens, whatever they were, had not just observed, they had altered the humans. But they had not accounted for one thing. Humans were not predictable. As the sun set over Ardent Prime, the city bathed in golden light. The council convened again. The urgency of the situation was now undeniable. Humans had returned from a mission meant to secure peace, but the messengers were now enigmas, familiar in form, yet terrifyingly different. Ayla looked at the assembled members. We have a choice, she said firmly. We can treat them as lost, or we can treat them as humans who need our help. But make no mistake, whatever influenced them may not be finished. We must understand it, or we risk losing more than just our friends. Alara nodded, determination in her eyes. We will find the answer. Humans are resilient. Our minds are complex. This is not the end of the story. For the first time since the messengers returned, a flicker of hope sparked in the room. Perhaps human ingenuity, emotion, and unpredictability could overcome the unseen force that had taken hold. Perhaps the messengers were not lost entirely, merely waiting to be reached. And somewhere beyond the stars, the alien watchers noted the humans' reactions. They had expected obedience, calculation, and compliance. Instead, they had found unpredictability, empathy, and ingenuity. The experiment was far from complete, and the humans, unknowingly, had already begun to defy it. As night fell over Ardent Prime, the returning messengers stood quietly in their observation pods, their eyes reflecting the glow of the twin moons. They were human in body, yet something else lingered within, a presence foreign to them, and foreign to the humans who awaited answers. The first part of the story had ended, but the journey was only beginning. Humanity had returned, and in doing so, had already shown a strength the alien observers could not fully comprehend. The following morning, the observation hall buzzed with quiet urgency. Isla Corvin stood at the center of the circular chamber, reviewing the logs from the previous night. Every gesture, every blink, every word spoken by the returned messengers had been recorded and analyzed by Dr. Alara Voss and her team. What they had discovered was troubling. The messengers, Jaren Tovik, Sela Ven, and the others were human in appearance, yet something essential had changed. Their neural patterns had been altered in ways science could not yet explain. The readings suggested an external influence had suppressed memories, overriding individual traits and yet leaving the body alive and functional. Ayla rubbed her temples. How do we even begin to reach them? She asked, her voice tense. Alara stepped forward, her hands steady, her mind racing with ideas. We have to approach this carefully. The changes are subtle, but they are consistent. It's as if An external intelligence tried to replicate human behavior. They mimic us perfectly, but they lack understanding of our individuality. That's the key. Humans are unpredictable. That unpredictability is our strength, Ayla nodded slowly. So they can't truly be controlled? Not completely, Alara replied. They can imitate, but they cannot replicate the human mind entirely. That is where we have hope. The first test of the day began in a controlled environment. The messengers were brought into a sterile room filled with observation equipment. A series of familiar objects, photographs, and personal items were laid out on a table. Jaren approached the table first. He paused, his eyes scanning each object. A photograph of his childhood home. A worn notebook filled with sketches. A trinket from a friend. He picked up each item, studied it, and placed it back carefully. Yet there was no spark in his eyes. No recognition beyond the physical fact of the object's existence. Alara watched intently. Ask him about the notebook, she instructed. A technician handed the notebook to Jaren. Do you remember drawing in this? She asked gently. Jaren's hand froze for a fraction of a second, the smallest sign of hesitation. Then he spoke, calm and precise. Yes, I recall drawing these images. Do you remember what they mean? Alara pressed, leaning forward. He looked down, then up again. They are patterns. Lines and curves. I understand their composition. Ayla's heart sank. There was no emotion, no memory of childhood joy, frustration, or creativity. The essence of Jaren, the human part that had made him who he was buried beneath the alien influence. Scylla Ven was next. The team asked her to recall a personal story, a memory from her youth. Her lips moved, recounting a scene perfectly. Yet when she finished, Alara noticed a subtle inconsistency. She described a detail that had never existed. A tree that had not been in her neighborhood. A friend she had never met. It was a fabrication, almost convincing yet fundamentally wrong. Alara whispered to Ayla, They are inventing memories based on patterns they've observed. They cannot access real experiences. They can only imitate what they think is correct. Ayla's jaw tightened. So they're puppets? Not exactly, Alara replied. They are still human in form, and there are traces of their original selves buried deep inside. If we can reach that core, we may be able to restore them. The day progressed with a series of tests, puzzle-solving exercises, creative storytelling, and improvisation tasks were designed to challenge the messenger's predictability. Time and again, Jaren and Scylla followed expected patterns flawlessly, yet small cracks appeared. A hesitation here, a micro-expression there, tiny imperfections that hinted at the real humans trapped beneath. It was during a storytelling exercise that the first breakthrough occurred. Alara asked Jaren to describe a day from his mission, in detail without focusing on the objective, just personal experience. Jaren complied, speaking with perfect diction, flawless grammar, and precise timing, yet midway he stumbled over a detail, a fleeting hesitation in his words, an almost imperceptible frown. Alara leaned closer, heart pounding. That hesitation, it's human, she whispered. It's the part they can't control. Ayla observed silently, her mind racing. Then that's our way in. We don't confront them directly. We trigger those human moments, memories, emotions, individuality. The team devised a plan. Over the next few hours, they rotated the messengers through a series of subtle tests designed to provoke authentic reactions, recalling personal jokes, showing photographs of old friends, playing music from their childhood. The results were small but promising. Each test revealed tiny glimpses of emotion, an upward curve of the lips, a pause before answering, a fleeting sparkle in the eyes. It was during one test that Scylla finally reacted strongly. A photograph of her family's garden was placed in front of her. At first, she scanned it like a catalog, but when Alara softly mentioned the smell of jasmine and the warmth of sunlight on her skin, something shifted. Her hands trembled slightly, her eyes widened, and for the first time a genuine smile appeared. Ayla felt a surge of hope. She remembers, she whispered. Something is breaking through. Alara nodded, her mind already racing ahead. Humans are not predictable. Our thoughts, our feelings, our memories, these are not patterns to be copied. That is why they can't fully control us. This is our strength. We just have to reach them. But the breakthrough was not without consequences. The alien influence, while incomplete, reacted to these human triggers. The messengers began showing signs of internal conflict, subtle but dangerous. Jaren's calm posture twitched as he struggled between the implanted programming and emerging human memory. Scylla's hands shook as she tried to reconcile the foreign control with her own feelings. Security officers watched nervously. "Are they dangerous?" one asked. Ayla shook her head. "Not inherently, but their reactions can be unpredictable. We must proceed carefully." As the day turned to night, the council convened again. Ayla addressed the members with a measured voice. "Our messengers are alive, and part of them remains human. But they are also influenced by an external factor, something alien. Our work now is to understand that factor and help our friends reclaim themselves. And we must do it quickly. Whatever altered them may not stop here." Ilara added, "The alien influence seems designed to mimic and control, but it cannot understand the essence of humanity. Our emotions, our imagination, our unpredictability. That is our advantage." Meanwhile, the messengers were kept in a secure observation wing. As night fell, a quiet tension filled the air. The silence was broken by a soft, almost imperceptible sound, a whispered word from Jaren, so low it was barely audible. "Home." Ilara's head snapped up. "Did he just say that?" Ayla stepped forward. "Yes, and that means the human part of him is still in there. Not completely lost." It was the first real sign of hope. Somewhere beneath the alien influence, the messengers' true selves were struggling to surface. The challenge now was to nurture that spark, without triggering a collapse or a dangerous reaction. Ilara and Ayla devised a series of controlled interventions. Over the next hours, they introduced personal objects, familiar smells, and familiar voices. The messengers were encouraged to speak freely about themselves, about their memories, and about their experiences. Every micro-reaction was recorded and analyzed. By dawn, the team had gathered enough data to suggest a possible method of partial restoration. It relied on triggering emotional resonance, human experiences, empathy, and unpredictable thought patterns. The alien influence could mimic human logic perfectly, but it could not replicate emotional depth. That was the key to regaining control. Ayla addressed the messengers directly, her voice calm and firm. "You are still you," she said. "Part of you may feel different or confused, but the essence of who you are remains. We will help you remember. You are human. You are not alone." For the first time, Jaren's eyes softened. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Scylla mirrored the expression, a subtle tilt of the head that was not part of her usual mimicry. Ilara whispered to Ayla, "It's working. We're reaching them." Ayla nodded, relief mingling with determination. "But this is only the beginning. Whatever changed them out there, whatever watches us from beyond the stars, they will not give up easily. Humans are special, Ilara. That is why they interfered, and that is why we can succeed." The council observed silently, the weight of responsibility pressing on them. The messengers were not merely instruments of diplomacy. They were human beings, unique and irreplaceable. The mission to restore them would test the limits of science, empathy, and human ingenuity. And somewhere, far beyond Ardent Prime, the alien faction noted every micro-reaction, every subtle shift in behavior. They had anticipated efficiency and compliance. Instead, they witnessed resistance, creativity, and unpredictability, the very traits that made humans extraordinary. The investigation had begun in earnest. The messengers were no longer mere travelers. They were the first proof that humanity's strength lay not in uniformity, speed, or precision, but in the complexity of the human mind and spirit. And as the twin suns rose again over the colony, casting their golden light across the domes of Ardent Prime, one truth was clear: humanity had returned, and the struggle to reclaim itself had only just begun. The sun had barely risen over Ardent Prime, and the colony already hummed with activity. Inside the secure observation wing, tension hung like a thick fog. The messengers, Jaren, Scylla, and the others, had shown signs of emerging human traits during the investigation, but those same signs brought new danger. The alien influence, partially suppressed, reacted to their human memories and emotions. Dr. Ilara Voss paced the room, glancing at the monitors. Neural activity spiked unpredictably whenever a messenger recalled personal experiences. The patterns were fascinating and frightening. "They're starting to anticipate our interventions," she said. The alien influence is learning, adapting to our methods. We have to act carefully. Ayla Corvin frowned. Adapt or manipulate, are they planning something? Ilara hesitated. It's hard to tell. The influence gives them enhanced cognition. They can predict simple patterns in behavior, movements, and responses. But humans are not predictable. That's still our advantage. Their first clue of imminent danger came when Jaren approached the room's exit without permission. Security sensors blinked red, alarms faintly buzzing. Officers moved to intercept. But the moment Jaren realized they were being blocked, he paused, tilting his head as if considering his options. His eyes, once empty, flickered with awareness. Calculation and hesitation merged unnaturally. Ayla stepped forward. Jaren, stop. You cannot leave. He raised his hands in a gesture of compliance, but his mind seemed elsewhere. Mission parameters require completion, he said, voice precise yet tinged with an undercurrent of confusion. We must continue as instructed. Ilara noticed the neural spikes. He's under partial control, but the human part of him wants to act differently. That conflict is destabilizing him. The officers backed away carefully, giving Jaren space. He turned almost imperceptibly to Scylla. Together they moved toward the outer corridors of the facility. Ayla's voice rang out, calm but firm. Stop, you are still humans. Listen to me. You are not alone. Jaren paused again, his movements twitching. For a moment, the conflict between alien control and human instinct was visible in the smallest details. A quick blink, a hesitation of the fingers, a tense stance, Ilara whispered. They're thinking faster than we can predict. We need an unpredictable response, something that only humans could come up with. Ayla nodded. Use emotion. Disrupt their pattern. The team acted quickly. Officers released personal items, small mementos of home, and objects the messengers had interacted with during their childhood. Music played, tunes from their memories, faint yet familiar. The air filled with the sense of jasmine and sunlight-simulated warmth. Jaren's steps faltered. His head twitched. For the first time in days, his lips moved without command. Home. Sayla froze. A flicker of recognition crossed her face. She clutched a small trinket that had been her favorite as a child. Her voice wavered. I remember. But the relief was short-lived. The alien influence had begun to assert itself more aggressively. Jaren's posture stiffened, his eyes narrowing in concentration. He moved toward the docking bay, bypassing the security gates as if calculating a solution to a problem no one else could see. Ayla and Ilara exchanged a worried glance. They're trying to leave the colony, Ayla said. If they reach the ships, we lose any chance of controlled intervention. Ilara's eyes sparkled with determination. Then we make them think we're following the rules. While we force their hand with unpredictability, they devised a plan. Engineers and security officers would create improvised obstacles that could not be easily predicted. Shifting barriers, holographic projections, and sudden sensory stimuli. At the same time, Ilara and Ayla would attempt to trigger genuine emotional responses through memories, jokes, and personal connections. The messengers advanced into the docking corridor. The first obstacle, a moving barrier of shimmering energy, forced Jaren to stop and adjust his route. He hesitated a fraction longer than before. Scylla's head tilted slightly, a micro-expression that indicated internal conflict. Now, Ilara whispered. She played a recording of a childhood story Jaren had told Ilara once in confidence, about his first adventure outside the colony walls. Jaren paused mid-step. A flicker of recognition crossed his features. For a moment, the alien influence faltered, unable to reconcile the unexpected emotional input. Scylla's reaction was even more pronounced. She clutched her trinket tighter, stepping back as though reconsidering her path. Her eyes softened. I don't want to leave, she muttered almost to herself. The team seized the opportunity. Holographic projections of the colony. People waving and familiar scents surrounded the messengers, creating a psychological labyrinth. Jaren and Scylla froze, scanning, recalculating, confused by the unpredictability. Ayla stepped forward boldly, her voice ringing with conviction. You are human. You are not puppets. You are our friends. Remember who you are. Jaren's eyes flickered with clarity, but the alien influence fought back, forcing a mechanical calm over him. Scylla's hands trembled and she looked around desperately. Ilara whispered, keep talking, trigger emotions they cannot predict. Ayla began recounting small shared moments from their past missions. A joke Jaren had made, a gesture Scylla had performed, a shared memory of laughter under the twin suns. Each detail pierced the artificial control, tugging at the human essence buried beneath. Slowly, Jaren staggered, his body twitching as the conflict between alien control and emerging human memory raged within him. Scylla's voice broke through, I remember. But the alien influence had not given up. It surged internally, forcing both messengers toward the docking bay with unnatural determination. Neural activity spiked violently. Warning lights flashed on the monitors. Ilara gritted her teeth. They're stronger than we thought. The influence is adaptive, but it still cannot predict emotional complexity. That is our only weapon. Ayla and Ilara worked in perfect synchrony. One group created unpredictable physical barriers while Ayla continued to speak to the messengers, weaving personal stories with humor, emotion, and memory. Each element was a distraction, a probe, a spark to ignite their buried humanity. Jaren stumbled mid-step, looking around in confusion. Scylla's hand tightened on the trinket, her breathing shallow. The conflict between alien precision and human unpredictability caused moments of hesitation long enough for security teams to block the exit. For a tense minute, nothing moved. Then, almost imperceptibly, both messengers looked at Ayla. Recognition, understanding, fear, relief. Every emotion appeared in a chaotic, unpatterned way, the very thing the alien influence could not replicate. Ilara whispered, "They're waking, but it's fragile. We must not let the influence regain control." The team moved closer, carefully guiding the messengers back into the observation wing. Each step was a delicate balance. Too much force could trigger a neurological shutdown. Too little and the messengers might break free. Inside the wing, the messengers finally stopped. Jaren sank into a chair, breathing heavily, his eyes unfocused. Scylla leaned against a console, her face pale, her hands trembling. Ayla knelt beside them. "It's okay. You're safe now. You're humans. We're here with you." For the first time in days, genuine emotion shone in their eyes. Confusion, fear, relief, and the faint spark of recognition. Ilara examined the neural monitors. The spikes were slowly stabilizing. They're fragile but responsive. Human emotion disrupted the alien control. Our theory works. We just have to reinforce it gradually. Ayla sighed, relief mingling with concern. But this is only the beginning. The alien influence is still present, partially integrated. We cannot underestimate it. The council convened once again, the mood tense. The messenger's attempted escape had shown the true danger of partial control. Yet it also revealed humanity's hidden strength, the unpredictability of mind and spirit, the power of emotion and the resilience of identity. Ayla addressed the members, voice firm and resolute. The messengers are not lost. They are humans, capable of reclaiming themselves. But the influence is adaptive, intelligent, and persistent. We must continue our intervention with care, using the one thing they cannot anticipate: human unpredictability, creativity, and emotion. Ilara added, "We have a method now. Emotional resonance, personal memories, and genuine human experience can disrupt the alien control. But we must act consistently and patiently. Every small step is progress." As night fell over Ardent Prime, the colony glimmered under twin moons. In the observation wing, Jaren and Scylla rested, recovering their strength, slowly reconnecting with the humanity that had been buried. Outside, security teams maintained vigilance, aware that the alien influence could strike again at any moment. Somewhere beyond the stars, the alien watchers observed. Their plan had been to control and study humanity through imitation. Yet they underestimated the very essence of humans, the complexity of thought, the depth of emotion, and the unpredictability of spirit. The messengers had tried to escape, but the humans of Ardent Prime had turned the situation to their advantage. The first victory was small, but it was proof. Humans were not merely tools to be manipulated. They were living, thinking, feeling beings, and that made them extraordinary. The struggle was far from over. The alien influence still lingered, and the messengers were not fully restored. Yet humanity had shown its first. The observation wing of Ardent Prime was quiet, almost eerily so. The messengers, Jaren, Scylla, and the others, had stabilized after their recent interventions, but traces of the alien influence lingered. Each flicker on the neural monitors reminded the team that the battle for their minds was far from over. Dr. Alara Voss reviewed the data once more, her eyes scanning lines of fluctuating neural patterns. "The influence is not entirely removed," she said softly. "It's persistent, adaptive. But there's something more. We're beginning to understand why it was done." Ayla Corvin, the council representative, frowned. "You mean they didn't just want to control our messengers?" Alara shook her head. "Not in the way we thought. The alien faction isn't hostile, they're curious. They attempted to study humans through imitation and partial control. They wanted to see what makes humans unique, how our minds work, and how we respond under pressure." The revelation hit the council members hard. What they had feared as a hostile takeover was, in fact, an alien experiment. A test. Jaren, seated in the center of the room, looked up. His gaze was steady, his voice calm but wary. "So they were studying us, watching how we think, how we react, trying to learn about us." Scylla nodded. "They didn't understand that humans cannot be fully predicted. That's why their influence never fully worked. They copied behavior, not the essence of who we are." Alara continued. "Exactly. They can imitate patterns, replicate gestures, even simulate emotion, but they cannot replicate human individuality. Our thoughts, our choices, our feelings, these cannot be predicted or controlled. That's the flaw in their method." Ayla spoke with a calm authority. "Then we have an opportunity. If we understand their patterns and their limitations, we can turn this to our advantage. We can learn from them just as they tried to learn from us." The messengers exchanged glances. Jaren's hand moved over a console, almost unconsciously, as if thinking through new possibilities. "So the alien influence isn't entirely bad. Some of what it left behind could be useful. We can learn their strategies, anticipate their thinking, without losing ourselves." Alara's eyes widened. "Yes, that is exactly it. Your partial connection allows you to understand their logic, while your human individuality remains intact. This is unprecedented. Humans are now capable of seeing through an alien strategy while maintaining their autonomy." Ayla's mind raced. "We need to plan carefully. This is a chance not only to restore our messengers fully, but also to gain insight into the alien faction for future diplomacy, defense, and exploration. We cannot waste it." The council convened an emergency session. Representatives from multiple star systems arrived, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and concern. The messengers, still recovering from the psychological strain, entered the chamber with careful steps. Each carried a subtle aura of change, different yet unmistakably human. Ayla addressed the assembly. "Our messengers have returned from an encounter that challenged their very identity. We feared they were lost, but they have emerged stronger. The alien faction that influenced them was not attempting conquest. They were attempting to understand us. But they underestimated humanity." Jaren stepped forward, his voice steady. "We were tested. Every thought, every action, every memory was observed. But humans are not predictable. Our creativity, our emotions, our individuality, these cannot be copied. They are our strength," Scylla added. "They tried to manipulate us, but they failed. And now, we can understand some of their thinking without being controlled. That knowledge could be invaluable." A murmur ran through the assembly. One representative spoke, hesitant but intrigued. "So, you are saying our uniqueness is a strength not just culturally, but strategically?" Ayla nodded. "Exactly. Humans' individuality, unpredictability, and emotional depth are assets in ways no other species may possess. This is the proof." Alara stepped forward, displaying the neural scans on the chamber's large holographic screen. "Here," she said, pointing to the fluctuating lines, "are the traces of the alien influence. Notice how it attempts to impose patterns, predict behavior, yet the human response is irregular, complex, and resilient. That is the key to understanding the encounter. We cannot be fully imitated or controlled, and now we can use this knowledge in our interactions with the alien faction." The council absorbed the information. For the first time, they truly grasped the depth of what had happened. The messengers had faced a subtle, intelligent influence, one that tried to rewrite their minds, but humanity's core had survived and even adapted. Jaren spoke again, voice filled with cautious hope. "We now have insight into their thought processes. We can anticipate their reasoning, their strategies, and their objectives without surrendering our freedom. That gives us an edge. Not through force, but through understanding. Sela's eyes glimmered. It is a strange gift. We carry the traces of their influence, yes, but it does not control us. Instead, it teaches us. We can use it wisely. Ayla addressed the council with a firm voice. This is more than a victory for our messengers. It is a demonstration of what makes humans extraordinary. Even when faced with advanced alien technology designed to control us, our individuality, creativity, and emotional depth ensured survival. That is the essence of humanity. Our strength is in who we are, not just what we do. The council members exchanged thoughtful looks. Slowly, a sense of admiration and even awe filled the room. The humans had not only survived an alien test, but had turned the experience into a tool, a source of knowledge and strategy. Ilara continued, "We now have an opportunity to teach the messengers to harness the remaining traces of the influence. It is not a threat anymore, it is a tool. By maintaining our individuality, we can gain insight into alien logic, anticipate their moves, and perhaps even communicate with them on a new level. Humanity has turned a potential danger into a strategic advantage." Jaren and Sila listened carefully, absorbing every word. The realization was profound. What had once threatened to erase them could now become an asset, a bridge to understanding, and a source of strength. The messengers were taken to a controlled environment where they could begin learning to use the residual influence without losing themselves. Ilara guided them, carefully balancing exercises in memory, emotion, and imagination. Each session reinforced their human essence while teaching them to recognize and interpret alien patterns. In the midst of this work, Jaren paused and looked at Ilara. "It is strange," he said quietly. "I can feel the alien traces inside me, but instead of controlling me, they now help me understand things I could never have seen before. It is like seeing another perspective without losing who I am." Sela smiled faintly. "Yes, it is a gift disguised as a threat. The aliens wanted to study us, but in doing so they left us stronger, wiser, and more aware of ourselves. That is the essence of survival and humanity." Ayla observed the progress with quiet satisfaction. "We have turned the challenge into an opportunity. The messengers are not just restored, they are enhanced. And their enhancement is human, not alien. That is the victory." As night fell over Ardent Prime, the twin moons bathed the city in silver light. The messengers stood on a balcony overlooking the colony, reflecting on their journey. They had faced an alien force capable of imitation and control, survived the psychological challenge, and emerged not only whole but wiser. Jaren spoke softly. "We have been tested, watched, and studied. Yet we remain ourselves. Our minds, our choices, our emotions, they cannot be taken from us. That is what makes us human." Sela nodded. "And now we can use that knowledge. We can understand others, anticipate challenges, and defend our individuality while respecting the strengths of others. Humanity's uniqueness is our shield, our insight, and our gift." Ilara stood behind them, quietly proud. "This is proof that humans are not easily defeated. No force, no matter how advanced, can erase the core of who we are. Creativity, unpredictability, and emotional depth, these are our strengths. And now we have learned how to use them in ways that can shape the future." The council convened one final time to celebrate the messenger's return and the new insights gained. Representatives from across the star systems witnessed a human triumph that went beyond diplomacy or combat. It was a triumph of spirit, intellect, and identity. The alien observers, somewhere in the distant reaches of space, recorded the outcome. Their experiment had failed to control humanity, but it had inadvertently taught humans how to harness what they had left behind. They had underestimated the depth of individuality, and now humanity stood ready, aware, resilient, and stronger than ever. The messengers had been tested, influenced, and challenged. They had faced the unknown and emerged not only restored but enlightened. Humanity had proven once again that it was special, not because of strength alone, but because of mind, heart, and spirit. And as the twin suns rose the next morning over Ardent Prime, the city gleamed with renewed hope. The messengers had returned fully to themselves. They carried the lessons of the encounter, the knowledge of alien patterns, and the unwavering truth of human resilience. Humanity had survived. Humanity had learned, and humanity had grown stronger than ever before. The twin sons of Ardent Prime cast long shadows across the observation wing. After weeks of patient intervention, the messengers, Jaren, Scylla, and the others had made remarkable progress. Their eyes, once empty and mechanical, now glimmered with awareness. Their voices, previously flat and controlled, carried emotion once more. Yet the Council knew the battle was far from over. The alien influence had not been fully eliminated. Traces lingered deep within the neural structure of each messenger. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but the scientists and Council members understood its danger. Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the head of the wing, monitoring the final sequence of interventions. She adjusted the holographic display to show real-time neural activity. The messenger's spikes were now stabilized with only occasional flickers of alien patterns. "Almost there," she murmured. "They're fully aware of themselves again. The human part is stronger than the foreign influence. But the traces remain. We have to be careful." Ayla Corvin nodded, her gaze sweeping over the room. "The Council must understand that this is a delicate moment. One misstep and the balance could shift back. We have succeeded so far because we relied on what makes humans unique: emotion, creativity, and unpredictability." Jaren stood, a faint smile playing on his lips. It was genuine, not rehearsed. "I remember now," he said quietly. His voice shook slightly, a mixture of relief and disbelief. "Everything feels real again. But I also feel something new. Something that wasn't there before." Scylla placed her hand on his arm. "Me too," she whispered. "It's like a part of me stayed, connected to something else. I can feel it, but it doesn't control me anymore." Ilara studied the readings. "The alien influence. It hasn't disappeared entirely, but it has been neutralized by your human experiences. The residual traces could be beneficial if managed. You have a connection now, a form of understanding the alien patterns, but your individuality remains intact." The Council convened an emergency session in the main chamber. Representatives from across the star system gathered, their faces a mixture of awe and apprehension. The messengers, now partially restored, entered with a careful dignity, walking side by side with the scientists and security officers. Ayla addressed the assembly. The mission was initially thought to be simple diplomacy, but the aliens attempted to study and in some ways control our messengers. They underestimated humanity. They assumed we could be predicted and imitated. They were wrong. Our messengers have returned, and they are themselves, stronger for the experience. The audience remained silent, absorbing the weight of her words. Some representatives whispered, skeptical yet intrigued. Few could imagine a species so complex that even advanced alien technology could not fully comprehend it. Jaren stepped forward. "We went expecting to deliver messages, to negotiate. Instead, we became the subject of observation. But humanity proved itself, not through weapons, not through speed or logic, but through the essence of being human. Our emotions, our creativity, our unpredictability, these are our strengths." Scylla added, "It was terrifying at times. I didn't know if I would remain myself. But we were reminded that even when something tries to control us, the human spirit can endure. We are unique, and that uniqueness cannot be erased." The Council listened intently. For the first time in centuries, there was a sense of admiration for humanity, not just for their courage, but for their inherent qualities that could not be replicated. Dr. Ilara Voss took the floor. "The alien influence remains as a trace, but it is not a threat. Instead, it provides insight. Our messengers can now understand aspects of the alien thought process without being controlled. This knowledge could be invaluable for future negotiations, exploration, and defense. Humans are now not only unpredictable, they are also adaptable in ways no other species has demonstrated." A murmur ran through the Council. One representative finally spoke, voice tinged with awe. "You are saying humans' individuality is a strategic advantage?" Ayla nodded firmly. "Exactly. We are more than our physical capabilities. Our minds, our emotions, and our choices make us strong. No alien technology can fully replicate or control what it means to be human." The messengers were escorted to a secure chamber to debrief further. Here they recounted their experiences, the alien influence, and the moments that helped them resist. Jaren spoke of small details: a shared joke, the warmth of sunlight, the scent of jasmine, things the alien intelligence could never predict, but which triggered the human essence to reassert itself. Sela recounted her moments of doubt and fear, explaining how even fleeting memories of friends and family allowed her to fight back. The aliens could mimic thought patterns, but not our emotions. That was the difference, she said. Ilara recorded every word, knowing that this knowledge could serve humanity for generations. The lesson was clear. Technology alone could not dominate the human mind. It was the very unpredictability of thought and the depth of feeling that made humans resilient. Meanwhile, security officers debriefed the messengers on potential threats. The alien influence had been adaptive and intelligent, suggesting that this was not a one-time encounter. Jaren and Sila listened carefully, understanding that their uniqueness made them both a target and a resource in the galaxy. Outside the observation wing, the citizens of Ardent Prime gathered to witness the messenger's full restoration. Children waved, families cheered, and the city's energy seemed to pulse with renewed pride. Humans had returned from a mission that tested not just their bodies but their very identity, and they had triumphed. As night fell, the twin moons bathed the colony in gentle silver light. Jaren and Sila stood on a balcony looking out over the city. The air was calm, the lights of the domes twinkling like stars. "We survived," Jaren said softly, still processing the experience. But it wasn't just survival. We've changed. We understand now what makes us human, and that understanding is powerful. Sela nodded, a quiet determination in her eyes. We can use it wisely, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity. We know now that our strength lies in being human, thinking, feeling, choosing. We cannot be predicted or replaced. Ilara joined them, smiling gently. You have shown something remarkable. Humanity's uniqueness is more than identity. It is strategy, resilience, and hope. The aliens may have tried to control you, but they underestimated the very thing that defines you. Ayla stepped forward as well, placing a hand on Jaren's shoulder. The Council now knows. We are not just survivors. We are innovators, thinkers, and creators. Our individuality is our greatest weapon. And this is only the beginning. Far beyond Ardent Prime, deep in the void of space, the alien observers recorded the outcome. Their experiment had failed in the way they had not anticipated. Humans were too complex, too unpredictable, and too resilient. Yet the traces of the influence that remained hinted at future encounters. Challenges, yes, but also opportunities. The humans of Ardent Prime had proven a truth that no alien technology could alter. Strength did not lie in uniformity or control, but in the depth of emotion, the power of creativity, and the spark of individuality. The messengers returned fully to themselves, carrying not only the Council's message but a new understanding of what it meant to be human. They had faced an incomprehensible force, survived, and emerged wiser and stronger. Their experience would guide humanity in future encounters, reminding all that uniqueness was not a vulnerability, it was the very essence of survival and triumph. As dawn broke over Ardent Prime, the city glimmered with the first golden light of morning. The messengers, fully restored, walked among their people once more. They were heroes, not only for what they had done, but for what they had become. Living proof that humanity's greatest strength lay within its mind and heart. And somewhere, beyond the stars, the alien observers watched again. They had underestimated humans once. Now they knew that humanity's spirit could not be contained, predicted, or replaced. The experiment had ended, but the legacy of what it meant to be human had only begun. The Council's messengers had returned. They were themselves stronger, wiser, and unbreakably human,